Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another live stream. On my own at the moment. David isn't with us, unfortunately. I'm sure he'll be with us in a bit. Good evening, Hugh. It's been a funny week in hobby, hasn't it? Games Workshop opening themselves up over there, how they balance their games and their Meta Watch articles. For those of you who haven't seen them, they've done 2 articles now on the Warhammer community. One for Age of Sigmar and one for Warhammer 40k. And quite fortuitously, we're going to be talking about game balance ourselves tonight as the main topic of discussion. It'll either be a discussion or me monologuing, so we'll have to see. But we're going to be doing that a little bit later. Just to let everybody know, the format of the show will follow the usual routine. So the first thing that I'll do is go through what I'm going to be working on tonight. David will probably fill us in on what he's going to do if he gets here. So one of the things I've been doing recently is getting my Forge Father models that I've owned for years assembled, and I've completed another unit over the last week. I just showed that. So I completed I believe they're called Rekia Steel Warriors with flamers. So that's a unit, every man armed with a flamer, except for the squad leader. So what I'm going to be working on tonight is another unit of. This time I'm going to do the veterans. I think they're called Stormguard veterans. And I've decided to take this unit loaded out with all of the heavy weapon options. So I'm going to be running 2 magma cannons and 2 missile launchers, and then a leader just with I think it's called a hailstorm rifle. So that's what I'm going to be working on tonight. Some more Forge Fathers. I've got a little bit of work to do. So that's what I'm going to be up to. Anybody who's on tonight in the chat, please feel free to let us know what you're up to. Are you painting tonight, Hugh, or just sitting and chilling? Right. So the other thing we'll do later is I've got a few pictures of what I got up to at club this week, and David's here in spirit. So I've got a few pictures of what I got up to at club this week, and I was lucky enough to be able to get a game of one of my favourite games, Warhammer Fantasy Battles, with a guy called V at our local club, and it was fantastic to be able to get to play such an old game. I did get a few pictures, not the best, but I will go through them with everybody and have a quick chat about the game. For those of you who are into your Warhammer Fantasy Battles or large-scale fantasy war games of any kind, really, Kings of War included, that might be interesting for you. So it was quite good. Hugh's just eating. Well, enjoy your tea, Hugh. We had pork loin and prunes in a beautiful cream sauce tonight. The wife absolutely smashed it out the park. It was awesome. And then finish your grey nights. How many more have you got to do? Are you actually doing a whole army, or is it just a few units for the pleasures? That's a good point, actually. I need to drill out these miniatures at some point. Do all the gun barrels. That'll be fun. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I sometimes feel that with all the games and models I've collected over the years, I never really get the chance to enjoy older games as much. Being a victim of the cult of the new and having things constantly moving forward can be a bit of a downer, I think. It's a shame that, you know, things are constantly changing in a way. I mean, there is a nice aspect to it, obviously. We all like buying new toys and collecting new things, but it is sad. I personally think I hate it when I get things that I neglect for years and don't find an opportunity to play. And there must be others that feel the same. I guess one of the things I could do is not hang on to things as much as I do. I'm sure there are plenty of people who, when they don't get the use out of things anymore, they retire them via eBay and that sort of thing. Okay, so you're finishing your first 5-man squad, then haven't started the strike squad. Okay, so you're doing a fair few. Was it one of the was it the start collecting box, Hugh? Is that what you've got? Having said all that, I could just stop buying new things. That would probably solve my problem, wouldn't it? He says, looking down at his Leagues of Votan box. Still, to be fair, it's going to be a good excuse to dig out my old original squat figures and work out how I can get them to the table. Looking forward to that. God, that'll be a nostalgia trip. Right, that's 2 magma cannons cleaned up, 1 flamer cleaned up. I'm going to need to cut some support arms for these guys in a minute. I was really fortunate with this kit because I managed to find an old set of assembly instructions that somebody had uploaded to Reddit, because the faction starter pack I have doesn't have assembly instructions in it, and I couldn't find them anymore on Mantic's site, which I don't know if that's what they used to do, but as I say, a bit of bloody luck, somebody had uploaded it to the internet. Okay, so she got you individual, some individual bits. Nice. To be fair, I've just started sharing a little Google Note with the missus for Christmas ideas. So it's getting to that time of year again, I'm afraid. Start thinking about what Santa's going to bring me. Right. That's the magma cannon cable done for that. Where's the box? Oh! Oh. Arms. In fact, actually, where's that sprue? I had a sprue. Here's the sprue. Right. We need the off arm. Off arm there. I want one of them.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
My dulcet tones have finally arrived because I can fucking remember my password.
Loser.
Oh, Jesus.
So, I was just saying to, obviously you were here in chat, so you could obviously hear what we were on and with. I'm just tackling some more of these Forge Fathers.
Yeah, I saw you. I saw you're on the Forge tonight.
We'll have to we'll have to have a plan to get Hugh to get his Grey Knights in combat.
Well, he wants to play Kill Team with them.
Oh, okay.
So you're the Kill Team guy.
Old school Kill Team, or does he want the new Kill Team 21?
New stuff. Okay. New shinies.
Okay.
There we go. Fuck it. There we go.
We'll have to see if somebody's got the. As Luke's got the codex, I think, hasn't he? Or the index, or whatever the hell they call it.
People should be able to see me now.
Yes, they can, sir. So
Finally.
Hugh says he's got too much to paint. Hugh, don't even get us started on the too much to paint thing.
There's
Fucking
no
hell.
such thing as too much to paint. There's just not enough hours in a lifetime.
Yeah.
No.
That's
the honest answer.
Yeah. No. I'll be honest. I'm pretty much.
You're living life.
I'm going to be getting rule books, templates, board games. I can't imagine there are any miniatures I'm going to ask for Christmas or hopefully get.
You will be getting some miniatures for Christmas.
Oh God. Because yeah, I've already got plenty.
Because me.
Yeah. I have enough.
No, to be fair, it's my Christmas present for you. I have already purchased. It's a fucking genius idea, and you're gonna love it.
Okay, that's fine. To be fair, it's nice to actually get some of your stuff painted. I was looking at those goblins that you did me ages ago, and I was going to bang them out.
Oh, what, the 3D printed ones?
Yeah. Yeah.
For fuck's sake, I've twatted my camera again. Sorry for people at home for making you motion sick.
No,
I wasn't ignoring you. My brother was here, then I left it far too late, and then I had tech issues.
Okay.
Welcome to my life.
So anyway, obviously everybody knows what I'm up to.
Yeah, I saw what you're up to.
Do you have anything to share, or are you?
I currently have no idea what I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm a bit of a loose end. I've yet again forgotten McDonald's coffee stirrers, so that project's on
bummer.
Hold.
Okay.
Did painting comp. Suppose I could make a start on next month's painting comp.
Oh yeah, that's true. We need to discuss the painting competition with everybody. I'd have forgotten about that.
See, my usual. Fuck's sake! Stop moving.
Tell you what. Oh, because I forgot to grab the pictures. I'll have to grab them out of the Discord. Yeah. For everyone.
Yeah, I don't really know. I've got some Star Scrappers Battle Drill to paint. I've got some Carnivale to paint. Yeah. Don't really know what to do. I mean, I've got Club Armada to paint. I've got stuff to prime. I've got no end of things to do.
But you're not settled on anything?
Not settled on anything for definite. Right. Carnivale.
Do you want to go first with what you were doing club night?
Yeah, we can do. I mean, it's a brief one because I was teaching Ricky how to play Blood Bowl this week. So we had Dark Elves versus Halflings. We played the first half, and the Halflings were 2-0 up by halftime. So Ricky called it at that point. One mistake with Ricky was teaching him and showing him the ropes. He just made an inopportune block, and is always in the way in Blood Bowl. You get bit, and then he re-rolled it, and he still got bit. So yeah, unfortunately, that was a turnover at that point. And then from there, not a lot happened other than the Halflings kicking the shit out of somebody.
So he was not only did he fail his block, but he had a ball carrier turnover.
Yeah.
With it. Oh Christ.
No, he had the block, but he didn't have his ball carrier in his cage.
Oh, okay.
So he got bit in that regard.
That's fine. Yeah, so failing the block then left you the opportunity to turn him over.
Yes.
Okay, that's fair.
I
shall glue on this power cable.
I know what I'm going to do, he says. Rather hopefully.
I say I'm going to glue this power cable. Let's hope it fits.
Get Video Ninja up and running.
I must confess, I didn't.
Just not my front-facing camera. Internet.
That's
Nobody wants to
annoying.
See that. Turn that off. Start. Go. Right. Is that my? That is my wide-angle camera. Jesus. That's better.
Okay.
Right. My Video Ninja camera should be live if people want to see what I am up to.
Just bear with me a second.
Some more miniatures again because I let them chip. Because I'm a heathen.
Okay. This is going to be a problem. Ugh. Okay. Yes, sir.
Oh, speaking of failed models, Hugh, you've got another failed model and a finished one. They're all done now, so...
3, 2, 1. Here's David's camera. Oh, what have we got there? Some sort of bike? Oh, no. These are ships. Armada.
Bring the sails.
Yes. Armada ships.
So I'm going to get Club's Armada stuff, hopefully, finished and sort some chips out on it.
Yeah, that's a good call, because I want to play that game.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got some, what's it called, due? I've got some dwarves to paint. So
yes, you've already got a fleet for it, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
God damn it.
God damn it, Kaputkin. Right. Oh, right. I need a piece of paper. Where can I find a piece of paper from this evening? I'm done with minicam.
Okay, mate.
Actually, no, before we go away from my minicam, sorry.
Every week.
Things that go bump in the night?
Oh, this is it makes sense. It's October. It's Halloween.
Let's play some spooky Carnivale minis, including men in straitjackets.
To these you doctors. I'm going to do...
That's what I'm thinking.
I'm definitely going to do Mansions of Madness. It's decided.
Decision maketh.
Decision. Here's a question for you. Clear acrylic bases for Mansions of Madness. Yes or no?
Yes and no.
Okay, that's not helpful.
Well, yes on the one front because clear bases are kind of cool and system agnostic and everything else.
Yeah.
No, because they're an absolute bitch with frosting.
Do you know what? You have sort of like voiced my fear. Because I was going to ask you.
I have experience with Overdrive minis. Now that set is at Club, so therefore, if you want to have a look at the Overdrive minis at Club on Monday, and how their bases are, bear in mind I A didn't use Activator and B barely used any super glue,
and they still frosted
in places.
I'll have to go on YouTube. There must be a way to do it without, unless super glue's not the glue. But what else do you stick acrylic with?
PVA?
Would that do the job?
Well, the old Airfix crew
Yes.
used like PVA for doing the clear pilot canopies and stuff.
Oh. Well, maybe that's it.
So
then.
again, stop frosting.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the way it go.
Right.
Right.
Anyway.
So, what did I do at club? Where are we?
You did Warhammer Fantasy Battles.
I did.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I've got another lid that has come off of paint. And the paint is deadeth because it's dried out.
What is it, G-Dub?
It's a Vallejo. Do you have an empty Vallejo cap sitting around somewhere? At yours?
Problem is I tend to chuck them when the bottles are empty.
Yes.
I do have empty dropper bottles for decanting.
I have empty dropper bottles. I just don't know where I've placed mine.
I mean, I know where mine are, so I can get you one. That's easy.
Where's Green Grey?
So Hugh's got some failed prints you've given him.
Yes.
Just any old failed prints, just to try out painting.
Yes, basically.
Okay. That's fine.
Requiem Brotherhood from Artisan Guild. Hugh really liked the look of.
Okay.
Hugh also doesn't have a lot of fantasy painting experience.
Yep.
So therefore wanted to try it.
Yep, fair comment.
He has the pin-up model.
Right.
In all her scantily clad glory.
Okay.
And he has a hero model.
Fair. Makes sense.
I have possibly got something beautiful to show off in a minute, but I will have to run to the other room and get it because it is still on its supports because it printed overnight.
Okay. Right. Well, if you want, I'm going to start talking about the Warhammer Fantasy Battles that I played on Monday. If you want to duck out for a minute,
I shall run in a second.
So,
I'm just looking for the paints.
I apologise for everybody. Chat will be off screen for a second while I play about with the slideshow. So this is the initial setup from my point of view. I was playing Demons of Chaos, my Tzeentch models, nearly fully painted, just these flamers to finish over on this left-hand side.
Suspicious looking pink horrors.
Yes, I had to proxy my pink horrors because to give me a decent game, I wanted to push the points level to 1500 because 1000 is just a little bit too limited for Warhammer Fantasy Battle 8th edition. Yeah, because you need like 25% core troops, and some of the army books are really restrictive on what you can take as core. So
I'll be back in a second. I've just turned the camera off.
The only way I could get to a legal 1500 point list was to proxy my blue horrors and brimstones, which are not used at all in Fantasy Battle normally, and just pad out my pink horror units to 20 man. So I had 2 units of 20 with full command. So that was. So I had my Screamers, which were a special choice. My core, which was 2 units of pink horrors, full command sections, standard bearer champions, and musicians. A demon prince of Tzeentch, level 1 wizard, with wings. I don't think he had any other upgrades, just a lesser gift of chaos, which I ended up rolling a really rubbish one for. So I took a weapon, which I can't remember what I took in the end. I think it was a weapon that gave me +1 attack, so I had 6 attacks. The Herald, which was my hero choice, I put him on a burning chariot of Tzeentch. Again, no upgrades except for a lesser gift of chaos, which again he rolled utter rubbish. So I gave him a weapon that allowed him to steal spells from spellcasters, should he get into combat with one. And again, level 1 wizard. So because the pink horrors count as level 1 wizards in Fantasy Battle, I effectively had 4 wizards on the table, which was quite a good thing for my army because I got plenty of magic options. And then a unit of 6 flamers, bog standard, no upgrades, no champions, anything like that. This was V's deployment, so he had a big block of 20 Saurus warriors. He had a character on a dinosaur just off to the left here out of shot. I might get a picture of it somewhere else in the slides. And I can't remember what it was, to be fair. I think it was a skink on like a tyrannosaur type dinosaur. Then he had the I can't remember what any of his stuff is called. I do apologise. He had
he's got a the troglodyte dinosaur is the one that you said about that was out of shot.
Troglodon. And what's this one? Bastillodon.
Yeah.
Bastillodon,
Troglodon.
with a sun cannon, is it? The very
like
close range, burn your eyes weapon mounted on top. Then he had this block of Saurus warriors was terrifying, but this whole flank otherwise was basically just skinks. He'd got a couple of Croxigors inside this skink sort of militia unit to make them less crap. So they were a reasonable threat. But then he just got lots of little skink skirmishing shooters, which frankly I wasn't too worried about.
Little skink dickheads.
And he had a skink priest, which he hid in this unit to protect him. And then he had this skink priest champion. I think he might have been a named character running round loose at the back. So that was the initial deployment. V won the roll-off and decided to go first. His first turn was really quite conservative. He didn't want to press too deep in the centre. He did bring the skinks up, ready to try and do some ranged in future turns, because I think they're all armed with either javelins or blowpipes. So he pushed them up. He moved up this block of infantry because I think he was happy for me to engage this, but he wanted to keep the Saurus so that he got the initiative and got the charge off. And this dinosaur, the Troglodon, was quite conservative. He pushed up just a little bit on the left, but my Screamers have got a massive charge range with 10 inches plus swift stride, which is best 2 out of 3 on 3d6. And again, he didn't want to receive the charge, he wanted to be attacking them. So his first turn was extremely conservative. You can just see the Troglodon in the top there. So this was him moving the skinks up here, you can see. So we got one unit here. This unit took cover behind the forest so the wizard couldn't be sniped with any sneaky spells. These guys just pushed up to fill out this gap. Oh, and I forgot, he also had a skink on a pteranodon, like a flying beast, that moved into this gap here again to protect the front of the Saurus warriors.
It's not Ripjaw Raptor, it's whatever one. The other one.
Is it?
That you can have.
Ripodactyl.
Yes, that's the one.
That's it. Well done. Thank you, sir. So what did I do? Well, to be honest, I just spammed a ton of magic. I shuffled everything up forward a little bit because again, I was the same as him. I didn't. It was one of these fantastic games. The thing with fantasy is, it's a great positional game. And it can be a bit of a Mexican standoff because nobody wants to make charges that they're going to, nobody wants to receive charges rather. And you've got to be very careful about how you place your units because you can really get on the back foot very fast, particularly if you charged, like these Saurus, if they'd have charged into my demons, they would have it just made an absolute mess of them. Particularly if you got a double charge with both units. Yeah. Oh my god, it doesn't even bear thinking about. So
sorry to interrupt a second.
Yeah.
But my camera's fucked up on the stream.
Oh, okay. Oh, it has. Discord's gone funny. There we go. Did you drop in, drop out?
Yeah, I did drop in, drop out because Discord shut the bed at my end.
That's fine.
Technical difficulties.
It is now fixed.
Thank you, sir.
So I did pretty much exactly what V did. Everything just shuffled up a tiny bit. The only thing that I did do was I was quite aggressive with the flamers on this, my left flank here. I pushed the flamer unit, because they're a skirmishing unit, I could march them all the way up and still shoot 18 inches with my flame attacks. And to be honest, it went perfectly. This is V's battle line after my first turn. This unit of skinks got completely deleted in a hail of flame from the flamers, and having this unit wiped out then panicked this unit. So in the first turn, I'd completely collapsed his flank here on this side of the board. The other thing that I did was I got ridiculously lucky on my first turn, and this unit that you can see here, hopefully if you can see my pointer, this unit was a unit of pink horrors that I just created because of my army rule allows me to, whenever I roll magic during my turn, I got a small 1 in 36 chance of spawning a brand new unit of horrors. And what did I do? Spawned a brand new unit of horrors right in his back line, which I feel really bad for. But it was just the way the dice fell. It was just the way it went. So after the first turn, things didn't look good. I'd collapsed this flank and got stuff in the rear, so it was a real tough start for V. So his second turn, he managed to get this Troglodon. It charged, it took a risk and managed to charge into my screamers and basically wiped him out. I think there was one left on one wound after he charged into him. He completely destroyed them, which is what I was afraid of. So that didn't go well. So whereas I was taking control of this flank, this one suddenly looked a mess. Because I'd got nothing to stop this dinosaur running right around this forest and just mauling my back lines. So it didn't go well. So pretty much nothing else happened in turn 2. That was the only thing of interest. V's forces still played a conservative game here because nobody wanted to get caught out in the open and double charged or anything like that. This unit with the wizard in didn't pass its rally test and ran further into these woods here, which again was bad luck on his part, but it was just the way the dice fell. My turn 2, I didn't dare push up again, waiting for the counter attack. I just spammed some more spells. The only thing I did do was charge with one thing V did do in his second turn. This skink unit came round to protect the back of this wizard to stop him getting charged in the back. So my pink horrors ended up in a bit of a scrap with these guys, which you can see there in this shot. So that was sort of something that happened in turn 2. The other thing that happened was in my turn 3, I engaged this skink unit with one of my pink horror units, and it was a bit of a handbags at dawn. The skinks are pretty rubbish. My pink horrors are rubbish in close combat. So we just
your way out of a paper bag.
Yeah, we just stood there swatting at each other and doing pretty much piss all. It was a bit of a deadlock. the other thing that happened that was quite massive for me was that my chariot came up and attacked his Ripidactyl hero and chewed him up, spat him out, and finished him off, which was bad. My Demon Prince flew over here to try and get control of this Troglodon, and also to try and stay out of charge arc of this unit of Saurus warriors. And these guys just plodded up to reinforce this flank. And we moved on to turn 3, and pretty much with turn 3 we finished it. Jake brought his Troglodon round with a view to in future turns attacking my rear lines, which was, he had a choice. He could have either charged the Demon Prince in the back or brought the Troglodon round to the rear. He chose this option. I think that was probably smart because my Demon Prince is pretty beasty in close combat. And then basically some massive spell attacks from the Chariot and the Demon Prince managed to wipe out this block of Saurus warriors, which was really V's only serious threat. And with that gone, the game was pretty much mine. It was all over bar the shouting, which it all ended very quickly. But it was such a good game.
To be fair, it looked really good, and to be fair, I want to try some at some point.
We both enjoyed it a lot. Whoops. Sorry about that for everybody. Yeah, we both enjoyed it a lot. As I say, it probably ended quicker than it could have done. It's a shame things just went so bad at the beginning for V. Me getting that free unit in his rear arc, and him losing so many of his models to that flamey unit. It was bad, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, I think he enjoyed the game, and that's what matters. I know I certainly did, and we'll definitely be looking to play again whenever we can fit it in the schedule. That's the problem, fitting playtime into the schedule, because they're so busy.
And you're a popular boy now. You're back.
Well, it's not that. I mean, I've got so many games to play. When people say, "Shall we play this?" I can't say no.
That's what I mean. Everybody knows you're a magpie.
Yeah.
So everyone's all over you like a rash because everyone's like, "I've got a new game that you need to try, Paul, because I know you'll love it."
Paul will play this. Yeah, unfortunately, but yeah, really good. And I tell you what, I'm excited for the rebirth of the old world next year or whenever it is GW are launching it. Should be good. I need to play some more of those mass flank fantasy games.
We need to play some Kings of War, because I told you at McDonald's on Monday night what I have a hankering to paint and collect next. And it's a shit ton of dwarves.
Yeah, that was better left field. Have you never mentioned that before, have you?
No,
I've never
but
heard you say, "Oh, dwarves."
To be fair, I am partial. I'm about to change what I say because that could be sound clipped so badly to say that I'm partial for a dwarf. But I am quite partial to dwarven miniatures.
Yeah.
I keep looking at, because of Rings of Power being on at the moment, and obviously getting back into Lord of the Rings lore and that kind of thing, I keep looking at the Lord of the Rings miniatures game and going, should I? And collect like a dwarven army for that. But then the other part is, whilst Lord of the Rings is beautiful as an IP, for me, I want to have something that works for multiple games. So rank and flank dwarves for Kings of War and Warhammer Fantasy and Age of Fantasy for OPR.
Yeah, the other thing you could do is round bases in special movement trays, so that then they're truly multi-use.
Because Titanforge. Unless they're cotton socks, do that for you. They give you bases that you can put your bases in. They give
Do
you
they?
bases for your bases. Yes, they do.
Okay. So what, they do movement trays with moulded wells?
Yes.
Okay.
And the movement trays themselves are obviously textured like the bases, so it is virtually seamless.
Are they up on their mini factory or something?
They are up on my mini factory.
I'm going to check them out, because I might want you to print some of them, depending on how they're laid out. Because the only thing to remember is that dwarfs are on 20mm for Kings of War and Fantasy. So the bases are tiny.
Yeah.
Just to bear in mind.
My airbrush is a bit spattery tonight.
Are you putting some paint down on those boats with the old airbrush? Quick job.
Yeah, I'm touching up. I've just touched up where they've chipped with thick paint out of the pot. Like unthinned paint. And then I'm now just giving them a quick dust over so that they're all the same shade of brown.
Cool.
Because I'm fairly sure I've got the right paint on, but I'm not entirely sure.
You mean you haven't been keeping records?
No, records didn't begin when I did this.
Oh, I tell you what. While we're chatting,
let me just... a bit of flow improver, because that's a bit thick.
Okay.
You'll have to let us know how doing that skin on them minis goes, Hugh.
I hear that you're enjoying Vallejo paints, Hugh.
There's a shock.
Right. Painting competition.
What's my pressure at? That might also be the reason why I'm having such an issue painting it. Because I'm currently trying to spray a base coat at about 20 psi. Excusez-moi, s'il vous plaît. Better. Yay for overspray.
I'm just downloading these pictures.
Oh, what, of painting comp?
Yep.
There's some good entries. Even if I do say so myself, because I entered. Very much so. It was a shame I had to drive by David. Favourite blues today and couldn't stop and grab more.
That's the same photo. What?
Yeah, I did notice Ricky put a couple of pictures up of my goblins that were what
No,
I
I've
thought.
just tried to save the photos from the Discord and it's saved the same photo 3 times instead of saving.
You and technology.
Whoops.
Oh, I'll tell you the other thing I did today.
Yes.
My ginger compatriot. I had an SD card turn up from the old Amazons.
Oh, okay. What was this for? Your phone?
Yes, 128 gig SD card, so we can now start recording game footage in raw 4K.
That sounds awesome. Because your video on your phone is way better than mine.
Yeah, well, we're playing AOS this coming week, aren't we?
We are.
So, radical idea. I'm going to bring my camera mount and my phone, and we'll give it a go, shall we?
Yeah, so, can do.
And reach.
Just bear with me, everybody. I should soon have. Are you serious?
Oh shit! I just shot water on my laptop. Oh well. I could do with a new one. I had some airbrush cleaner somewhere, and I don't know where it's gone.
I don't understand.
What don't you understand?
I think there might be a glitch with this Discord. It doesn't track the photo that you've got selected for the downloads.
I think that's a you problem because every Discord photo I've ever downloaded has never had that issue. I think your old age is.
Oh, it might be my phone. That is fair.
Oh, you're on your mobile, are you?
Um.
Oh yeah, because you can't navigate away from my pretty face on Discord, can you? Oopsie. I got a fucking leak out of the paint control flow thing at the bottom of my airbrush, annoyingly. Because I noticed it the other day when I
Okay.
when I was what's it called? When I was spraying alcohol through it to clean it after what's it called? Clean it after spraying alcohol through it to fix pigments.
Right.
And I noticed I got a leak out the bottom of my air control, or paint control nipple at the bottom. So I think I fixed it. Honest God. Oh, you were in Mablethorpe with work today, so you went and got some paints. You rude bugger! You could have asked me if I wanted any. I don't have the full set yet, you know.
Just close to it,
Yeah, closer than you are as well, aren't I, at the moment?
probably. Oh, God.
That boys is magical though, for having it. What did you get? Did you just get some stock stuff? Did you get some more out there colours? Did you get game colour? Did you get model colour? What did you get, boy?
Hurrah.
It's almost 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Time flies when you're having fun, or technical difficulties.
Yeah, technical difficulties is the way I'd put it. Right. Now then, let's get this back online. And then we can show everybody
So,
these. And then we can get to our main topic.
are we going? What are we going as the highlight colour? Are we going light brown? Are we going cork brown? Where do I feel like going with this? Black red is not the one. Wood grain is also not the one. Chocolate? Actually,
Right.
that seems quite good. And then for the other one, go that way into...
Right, everybody. So, one of the things that's a tradition at our gaming club is that we have a painting competition every month, and we judge the entries at the first club meeting of each month. So this week, Monday just gone, was judging week. We only had 4 entries this week, so not as big as it has been some previous weeks, but we did get a few picks, which I'll now share with everybody. If I transition over, this was my entry. I just painted up 2 of these little guys. They were cheap PVC Reaper plastic undead wolves, and I'm just painting them up. As you can tell from the snow effects, these are just Frostgrave monsters to go with our monster set for playing games of Frostgrave. So that was my entry, and I came. Whoops, sorry, it's killed the slideshow. I do hate Windows slideshow. I'm gonna have to work out a better way of doing this for everyone. That was my entry. I came 4th.
That's what you need. PowerPoint.
Sorry?
PowerPoint.
Yeah, I need to get more organised. This was David's entry. Now, David, you tell everybody about this.
It's come off screen for me.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm not.
Oh, you're catching up. Well, assume your entry's on screen and you can tell everybody about it.
These are Ripper Snarlfangs from Underworlds.
Yep.
They're 3 goblins riding wolves, and the bases were an absolute pig because they're, in usual Underworlds fashion, they are detailed, but they're not detailed enough like the other bases that you can apply washes and make a deal of it. These are on desert bases with a bloody snake on 2 snakes on one, half a bone pile on another, and a spider. They're really annoying. Models themselves, gorgeous to paint. The skin on the walls was all done with contrast. Everything further up was either Citadel or Vallejo. The capes are a really nice dark sea blue that you even love.
And the capes
reds,
were the best bit, the blue colour.
The reds are Proacryl with some like scarlet highlights from Vallejo.
We'll have to.
Then the other thing is the tufts and the hat brims that are like fur.
Yep.
Were also a contrast.
Yep. Next time you come over, I want you to bring everything that we don't already have photographed so that we can add them to our little slideshow at the beginning. Because these are amazing. I know what you mean about the bases being fiddly with too many details, but I think you did a good job just to get them out of the way. The models themselves were fantastic. The colour, the actual colour definition, and the way that the mouths of the wolves were so clean, it was a really good paint job. Really impressive. David and I came sort of 3rd equal, because it's a public voting system. People cast their votes when they pay their dues, sort of thing. And David and I got equal votes, so came 3rd equal. And the other 2 entries came 1st equal. And the first of them was, if I go back, was this guy from Jack. So this is some insane orc war boss on a very customised squig, which looks suspiciously...
It's the new Great White Squig model from GW.
This is a GW model, it's not a conversion or anything, is it?
It's a GW model. It was released, I want to say last year at some point, or maybe the year before.
It's the rider's a little bit out of focus, but the work on the squig is amazing. With the drool and the teeth, such a good paint job. So that was sort of 1st equal with this entry from Wayne, which got, and And it, as usual for Wayne always puts in quantity, doesn't he? He'd got virtually an entire unit of trees. The theme was Call of the Wild, wasn't it?
Yeah, Call of the Wild. Wayne, what did Wayne have? He had the massive tree man.
Yep.
And then what, about 6 or 7 others?
Yeah, and then there's like 2 smaller dryad things, a slightly larger tree, earth elemental looking thing, and then there's these weird little sproutling things at the front covered in mushrooms and bits and pieces. There was loads to his entry, as there often is when Wayne enters things. But they were both very, very good entries, it has to be said. Which did you vote for, mate?
I voted for Wayne's, I think, from
yeah,
memory.
That's exactly what I voted for. No shame to Jack. Fantastic paint job. But for me, the theme was better expressed in Wayne's entry.
Yeah,
that was the clincher.
The theme on Wayne's, because whilst the great white squig is wild, I didn't feel that it felt that like the beast nature of it. Do you know what
sure. I mean, I knew where he was going with it, and it wasn't a bad entry. But like I say, to actually split the two, I think theme was what won it for me. With Wayne's entry, such a good entry. Great models as well. I don't know where he got them. Did he 3D print them all?
No, they be Reaper.
Really?
Yes.
All of them?
Yes,
Reaper do some nice stuff, don't they? Right. I think that's it.
It's topic time.
Right, okay, everybody. So, as I mentioned at the top of the show, game balance has been in the news a lot recently. We've obviously got, first of all, there was the Games Workshop apology stroke rollback on Leagues of Votan, where they essentially applied some army-wide nerfs and
before the codex is even released,
effectively sort of apologised for getting it wrong, which we'll probably come to in our discussion. And then there's the 2 articles I mentioned. So there was that, and then they've suddenly made this move to be very open about how they go about the process of balancing their 2 flagship games, Age of Sigmar and Warhammer 40k. So to sort of start the conversation off, let's discuss a little bit about what do we think game balance means, because Games Workshop, let's start with them. In the articles, with the MetaWatch articles, Games Workshop expressed their interpretation of balance as being, if you play 500 games with an army, or 1,000 games, you win 500, lose 500. So there's a 50-50 win-loss rate against the other factions in the game, and all of the factions within the game have the same win-loss ratio. So because it's obviously a dice game, random will always be a factor, but taking random out, you end up with a 50-50 split of wins versus losses. That's their idea of balance.
And they did say with this data that they've published in that MetaWatch article, allow 5%, swing either way, but that's the numbers we're looking at when you looking at the pictures in the article itself.
Yeah, sure. So although they expressed our ideal is X, like David said, they then go on to say in the article that we know the ideal will never exist, and there are too many factors at play for that to ever happen. So we're happy with 45 to 55% for every faction. And that seemed to be standard across both articles, Age of Sigmar and 40k. I think it was expressed, I think what I would call game balance was expressed better in the actual text of the article, where I think there was a phrase, something like, what they want is when somebody buys or invests in an army for one of their games, that they have a reasonable expectation that they will win.
Yes. Doesn't matter what they pick. They don't have to pick specific units and or options.
And I'll be honest, for me, that sort of phrase or comment is actually more useful or more important than the hard numbers.
Yes.
Because for me, that is exactly what I would think of when I think of game balance.
Well, we come to one of our favourite games that we both like, Infinity. There's not really any... There are meta lists, but even if you take a non-meta list, you still have a decent chance of winning if you know how to use it.
There are definitely undercosted and overcosted models in the Infinity meta. I mean, you've only got to watch Vol SC's channel to know that it's not something that Infinity is immune from.
No,
it definitely
I'm not saying,
has.
and again, no game, I think, is immune to people abusing it. Okay.
So Hugh's take on it is that any faction can win without bringing a meta list. Yeah. So, funnily enough,
links into our point, really.
Well,
you can bring whatever you want, and you've still got a chance of winning.
Funnily enough, that there's because again, both the GW articles, which are actually quite good, they also go into the two types of balance that they perceive, internal and external. So what we've discussed just a second ago was external balance. So faction A and faction B are balanced. There is also what Hughes alluded to, which is that if a faction has 40 units, those 40 units are costed in such a way that you can build an army out of any of them and it still will function and has a chance. So it's a different aspect of balance. And obviously, both are important, particularly when your product range is as big as Games Workshop's is. If you're if you're talking about, if you're talking about a game like God Tier, right?
Yeah, very limited pool of resources.
Well, internal balance is less relevant for God Tier because all of the faction boxes are predefined, aren't they? You take a box, you can't change the box.
Yeah,
there are no models
The only tweaking with God Tier is technically in the full-size game you play with 3 champions. So you can play with any 3 champions in the range, and I don't believe you can repeat any.
Yeah, but you do not have to choose minions, special abilities, upgrades.
No, it's all on there.
Yeah, so for that game, internal balance is not really relevant because a box is a box.
Yeah, how everything's balanced against everything else, super important.
Super relevant. Okay, so some games can avoid certain aspects or pit traps of the balance problem.
Start with how the game is designed, and all of this links to game design as well, I think.
Sure. So that's what we mean by balance. Now, it's been quite interesting to watch the response on the internet. Did you see Ash Barker's Stop Apologising video? Okay, so Ash Barker put out a video that was quite interesting, and basically what he said was he wants Games Workshop to stop trying so hard to balance things and stop making points changes and rules changes as quickly as they do. He wants them to leave things for longer, let the dust
See if
settle.
it stabilizes.
Yes, because again, it's like he said, he's worked for Games Workshop. He's been in the industry for decades, and he's seen he cites an example of the bad days of Games Workshop where they deleted all their social media and they were basically radio silence was the normal tactic. And he sort of said he saw all sorts of community panics. Oh, Eldar are busted. This is busted. That is busted. But give it 2-3 months, everybody worked out how to beat it. And the problem went away without them doing anything.
Yeah.
And I think Ash's argument was, and again, he put a very good video, a very clever video. I'll put a link in the description after I finished doing these chaptering later. He put a very good video about War Machine and how this pandering to the meta and constantly trying to keep things on a razor's edge effectively broke War Machine as a game and drove everybody away from it. It's a very good video.
I also point to a game that is no longer with us that is fucking awesome.
Yes.
That got killed off because chasing the meta and fixing everybody's fucking problems was too much hassle for Steamforged games.
Yep.
Guild Ball.
Good call. Yep. Yep. So bearing in mind we've got this sort of like, so we've got ourselves a scenario where I think most people would agree some sort of balance is needed. What Hugh said, strategic gameplay and lucky dice can win a game. Dice will always impact, randomness will always impact any game that involves a random numbers system, whether it's cards or dice, Hugh. Obviously, every gamer accepts that. To be honest, that aspect of random numbers is in the hands of the designer. As somebody who's played a lot of games, my view on it is this. You do have to have random. If you don't have random, a game is what I call deterministic. So it's like chess. There is no random in chess. Everything you do is calculated and absolute. If you move that piece, you moved it. You didn't move it, there was no dice to roll. There was nothing. Everything you did was your decision.
Yeah.
And it gives a particular form of game. When everything is very predetermined, no randomness, the game makes player skill the only determining factor. So if you are good at that game, you will always beat somebody who isn't as good. And it becomes very absolute, which is good if that's what you want. But bearing in mind, most of the games that we play as wargamers are leisure activities. I think most wargamers would agree. A game that was if you only had two friends, and you knew that John always beat Jack and Jack always beat Sam, and all games had no random, and that it always went that way, that would really suck some of the joy out of what we do. Do you agree, David?
Yes,
yeah.
Definitely.
So, random has to be a thing. But in a way, random is not to do with balance, is it?
No.
Because the game designer knows he has to put it in, and it's up to the game designer to make sure that it works well. But it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with balance.
No, we've discussed it before with criticals, and for example, choosing your dice mechanic or which dice size you're actually throwing.
Yeah.
We've talked about it with cards, activation pool again. Bolt action. They're RNG is dice, but is also the fact that you're drawing blind from a bag. And then statistically, as the turn goes on, depending on what's been drawn so far, your odds are forever increasing or decreasing.
Yeah.
It's a really good system in that regard.
In fact, thinking about it, if a game is super random, it's a way to balance the game.
Yes, because you don't know who's striking first, who's striking last, all of that kind of jazz.
Because when anything hinges on a dice roll, one day the dice will favour player A, and one day the dice will favour player B. If it's all up to the dice and skill doesn't matter, you've probably got a very balanced game at that point.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because everybody's luck will even out eventually if they play it enough.
Yeah.
But it's not a very good play experience, is it? Nobody wants to play a game where
there's no you don't feel like you're mastering the game, so to speak, because it's just all over the shop. One day you win it, next day you're having your ass handed to you because of X, Y, and Z.
I think it's probably why we'll never see anybody bring snakes and ladders to the club.
Yeah, or Monopoly.
Yeah, because although Monopoly does have skill, people argue, and there are tournaments for it. But Snakes and Ladders is the example I always like to give of a game that has no skill. It's just random. You roll a dice, move that number of squares. If you hit a snake, you're fucked. If you hit a ladder, you're lucky. And if you skip both, carry on. It's like totally random. Nothing you can do to influence that game matters. So you may as well just switch off. Which is why it's popular with 5-year-olds, but nobody else. Because once you work that out, you don't really want to play it, do you?
No.
So, having said that balance is so massive, there is also the question that can you actually have games that don't have balance? So have games that are designed to be lopsided,
games, like League of Infamy and Dungeon Saga, whilst it's balanced in the regard of like the stats and to allow the heroes / players to feel like they're achieving something.
Yep.
It's very adversarial and unbalanced because, again, it's more like an RPG and you can do what you want with it, and also you can just turn the wick up to 11 if you're really feeling like that guy, because I mean both of us have done that when we've been playing before.
Yeah, I would say that Dungeon Saga does have some pretense of balance to it, because obviously it's designed that
the action economy,
the players, if they play smartly and don't get really unlucky with their dice rolls, can win the scenario. But then again, a smart, I forget what they call it, overlord, who uses his deck well, can easily push them to the point where they don't win the scenario. And to be fair, the loss, just losing one model, is a fairly brutal. It is quite easy for the overlord. It is skewed in his favour in terms of the win con. All you've got to do is kill or take one player out of action and the whole party loses. It is fairly brutal. Rules as written. Obviously what you've said is true. A lot of people don't run it that way. A lot of people homebrew it or mod it to do other things with it. But rules as written, it's fairly fucking brutal.
Yeah.
But I think there is a semblance of balance there.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say anything's broken in it and needs fixing.
No.
By any means, but that's that. Historicals. When if you're replaying in a historical scenario, who cares if you're going up against a massive wall of German panzers, because that's what you were actually facing in the war. Do you know what I mean?
To be fair, that is a whole.
But
that
again,
is a whole thing in historicals, you get players who, like you say, want to reproduce actual military events from the past that were fucking massively lopsided on paper, and that is the intent. That's the gaming intent. That's what they want to do, to make that experience. So, yeah, you're right. Sometimes people deliberately don't balance a game, and they do it because they want to do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one game that I always think of is one sort of area of gaming where you can have a massive imbalance and still have the game be quite fun is cooperative games, and Arkham always comes to my mind. All of the Arkham Files games from Fantasy Flight, they toe a very fine line where.
Well, how many times have we failed that Cthulhu scenario now? 3?
Well, yeah, but that's by design.
Yep.
The scenarios are designed to beat you 60, 70% of the time. They're deliberately designed where the balance is off-center and the players will more often than not fail.
But it doesn't matter.
Standard difficulty. And it's done to curate a particular gaming experience, isn't it, mate? It's done to generate atmosphere. Like I say, I think it can be done, but the other thing is, if a game is doing it, it needs to be front and centre on the box, doesn't it?
Yes.
Because I think where it's a problem is if you've got some massively asymmetric, wonky, lopsided game and somebody picks it up to play it and they're expecting something else.
Yes.
So if you are designing a lopsided, unbalanced game, for Christ's sake, it wants to be on the box in big text, or it needs to be absolutely obvious from the design aesthetic what you're trying to do.
Yeah, this is a cooperative game because the world is handing you us, you're not handing the world us.
Or even if it's adversarial, like Dungeon Saga. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If the balance of power lies with one particular group or individual, the game must make that clear. Otherwise, people are just going to get pissed off.
And again, on a similar vein to the historicals front, you've got people that will take a balanced game, and because they're playing with mates, and because they're having a laugh, and because they want to challenge each other, will design or tweak a scenario to favour somebody better and play that adversarial way. Or again, I mean, me and you have both done it before. I've played 40k and given ourselves a points handicap.
Yep.
Particularly when introducing new players to a game.
But that comes to... That is another thing again, isn't it? Because
as in playing the game.
Even if you design a game that is perfectly balanced, and I'll use those words in bunny ears, perfectly balanced, if it's a game that has any kind of element of skill, immediately the players will unbalance it, won't they?
Yes.
Because unless the two players are of identical skill levels, they will immediately create an imbalance in your game by having different skill levels.
Yes.
So this comes to my sort of thought, which is Games Workshop have obviously done a massive PR exercise to try and chase this concept of balance and to reassure people that they're working to keep their games as balanced as possible. And I wonder whether really it's worth doing this much work from their point of view, because obviously players aren't balanced.
No, well, again, you put somebody who's won the Grand Tour however many times in a room with a complete and utter noob, even if the Grand Tour player has never played that army or anything before, and it's at the bottom of the meta list, they're probably going to beat the noob. Let's be brutally honest here.
Yeah. And does that mean there's something wrong with the game and it needs fixing? Probably not. And
maybe have a rule system that's not so convoluted and needing balance updates every 5 minutes as a knee-jerk reaction to the audience.
Because this is the thing that you've just mentioned, where you've got a scenario, you've got massive skill differentials with players. That is something where you need to have a system for handicapping the good players and lifting the poor players so that everybody gets... Because if you're looking for something different, then you're not balancing the game, you're balancing the players to achieve a fine win margin.
It's like Swiss pairings for tourneys. The more you win, the harder your opponents are, because they've also won as many games as you have.
Yeah, brilliant, and a brilliant example. You know, it's a completely different sort of thing that isn't really relevant for game balance. It's not something, because obviously the people who play the game can vary so dramatically. It's something that I think you need to tackle you probably need to tackle as a group of friends. If you've got like a skill mismatch, you know, the best thing to do is find a solution for yourselves, because I think as a game designer that would be very difficult to do, don't you think?
Yes, with any, and this actually kind of links with what we were saying last week, with rule systems with depth and tactical understanding versus more simplified rule systems.
Yeah.
That if your rule system has depth and tactical understanding, for example, knowing what a hacker does in Infinity and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's down to the players versus just throwing somebody into a room with some Infinity miniatures and telling them to play, because it plays completely differently as well. Whereas the more basic rule system is Starscrapper's Battle Drill is a prime example. Here's your minis, here's your stat cards.
Yeah.
Roll these dice for this action. Here's your action options that you can take. Get on with it. And because there's only a limited pool of like 5 or 6 action options, and you're activating all of your minis, and all of the minis are balanced against each other within that regard, it is a simple case of you get up to speed with the rules, and then it's RNG and tactics, because the rule system doesn't have the complications of this particular stratagem adds +1 AP, or this one negates immortal wound saves, and all of the rules text like you have on Infinity or Warhammer 40k.
Yeah. But do you think that is a balance thing?
I think it's inherently linked.
You see, I think this is one of the issues about discussing balance, is that things that, to me, that aren't really balanced do get muddled up with it. Because I understand totally what you're saying. A really complex game.
Prime example.
Yep.
Luke's Weber for Gene Stealer Cults.
Yep.
It is a weapon option that costs 10 points and is basically next to useless.
Yep. Versus 5 points for a grenade launcher or a flamer, which is 10 times more effective. Right.
The balance and the rules do link.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that that's a balance thing. It's a game design flaw, obviously, because they've made him an option that isn't worth taking. Because I mean, he can just not take it and run flamers.
But again, we're talking. Yes, but what like Hugh's point earlier, should be able to take anything and have a decent game.
Yeah, that's the internal balance thing. Okay, yeah, I get it. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Because that does fall under internal balance. If some weapon options aren't worth taking, the game doesn't have internal balance. No, you're right. You are dead right, actually.
Like, if all of the weapon options were at the same points value, and they all did similar things, and there wasn't any like points difference and that kind of thing, and they were just like generic weapons, yes, it's balanced internally, because you can build your army to your flavor and pick some webbers, pick some grenade launchers, pick some flamers, and they're all doing a similar amount of damage output and that kind of thing, and they all cost the same points and blah blah blah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And like you're saying, the thing with the Weber, it doesn't do that, because if you pick it, you've just picked a worse option, and now you've made it harder for yourself to win.
And it costs you 5 points more.
Yeah. No, you're right. Actually, that is in a way all tied up with balance, because it is the internal balance argument. Oh well, it's like, and to be fair, internal balance is still something Infinity struggles with. If you watch Vol SC's videos,
there are undercosted and overcosted.
Correct.
Units.
He will say, "Don't take this model; it's garbage. It's too many points, and this model's better, and it does exactly the same things." Blah blah blah, and those sort of things still occur in Infinity. The factions are all capable of fielding good armies that can have a good game against each other. But there are still things within the model range that Corvus hasn't quite got right, and
and I think every games manufacturer is guilty of it to a degree of undercosting or overcosting something.
Yeah, and to be honest, the larger your product line, the harder it is to do.
It is.
Yeah. And no shame on any manufacturer for getting that sort of thing wrong. If you have 200, 300 products, you can't get it right all the time, every time. Do you think Games Workshop were right to react like they did? I mean, they've really thrown the kitchen sink at this in terms of the PR.
I think they are a little concerned because they've just released a new product line.
Yep.
And history has shown time and time again that the new product line tends to be, like, even the newest flavor of Codex or whatever, tends to be quite spicy.
Yep.
And it upsets people.
Yep.
And consequentially, they didn't want this happening with the new leagues. And again, when tourney organisers are already banning minis before the Codex is released properly.
To be fair, they did clarify that. I think content creators, as we said last week, content creators are responsible of a lot of bullshit sometimes. Yes. The Germans did clarify what they did with the leagues is what they always do.
Yes.
That particular tournament organising group in Germany will not allow any new codex until it's been through some testing and it's been FAQ'd or fixed. And yes, they've come to that decision because they've been burned so many times in the last 2 or 3 years, with GW particularly, Harlequins, Tyranids, Custodes, they've danced this dance before, and they did come out and say, when everybody started using them as this example of the end of the world, they said, whoa, this is what we do with them all.
And again, it's been so long since we've had a new faction for 40k. I mean, how far back are we going since we had a new faction? Like a full faction.
Was that Custodes? Was Custodes the last new one? Or was Genestealer Cult after? I can't remember, mate, to be honest.
It was Custodes, then Genestealer Cult.
It's so long ago, I couldn't tell you.
And then before that, we had Tau?
No, AdMech.
Oh, AdMech, yes, true.
I think AdMech. I think it was Genestealer, Cult, Custodes, and AdMech are the three most recent. I mean, do you count the Inari? They were only really an
No.
Eldari sub-faction, weren't they?
Yes, even though they could access everything in Eldari, but we'll gloss over that subject matter.
Yeah, so I would... And again, I'm not sure of the exact order, but they're definitely, I think, the last three new ones. I mean, again, people on the internet have said that GW are panicking because it's all about money. They're terrified that nobody will buy the Votan. I think that's not the case, because if Votan are busted and win every game, that's the one thing people will do, is buy the fuckers.
Yeah,
Human
particularly
nature.
those that are neckbeards and playing in tourneys that they want to win because there's prize money involved.
I don't think there are any bad motivations. I don't think there's any. I actually think the motivations for doing what they're doing, whether I think it's necessary or not, is a completely different issue. But their motivation for doing what they're doing, I think, is well placed. I think they genuinely don't want people to be buying something that then is
just to chase a meta.
I think they don't want people buying something which they're then going to nerf the shit out of later, and then have people moan. I think they're sort of like saying, look, if something's unbalanced, we're not, because effectively that's what they're saying with the MetaWatch articles. For me, the writing between the lines, what they're saying between the lines is, if something is fucking the game up, we will not leave it. Yeah, so if you're buying something because you're guaranteed it'll beat your mate, don't do it for that reason, because we're going to take that toy away from you. We will not be leaving it in that state.
And again, we come back to the elephant in the room of games designers taking toys away with Steamforged.
Yeah.
And Guild Ball. You can't have nice things anymore. Right, well, sorry for you, but you're not having the game anymore.
Yeah.
Is unfortunately the play there. And I mean, hats off to fucking Steamforged for doing it. In that regard of, look, it's too big for us. We can't manage this anymore. Let's get rid of it. I am concerned about some of the excuses surrounding it.
What do you mean, Guild Ball or
no,
GW?
Not Guild Ball, GW. Of, well, this army was designed at a time when things were different and before the nerf, and yeah, okay, you've got a cycle time to get your prints to the UK and everything else, but you knew that when you started putting rules down on paper that certain things were a little spicy and might need nerfing, and you went out and nerfed the factions that they went against, and did nobody, literally no one, flag the fact of maybe these need changing as well?
I totally agree with you. I think that they need to look at their playtesting process. You see, for me, this has been mentioned by loads of content creators and people on the internet, and to me it's no-brainer, right? Space Marines are the most popular faction in the game. When you create a new faction, new codex, whatever, why does your playtesting process not involve benchmarking? Why don't you just take the Space Marine codex and play it against this new codex? You know, and they might say, well, because we've got these 2 or 3 codexes that are in the development process at the same time, it's just more time efficient to just play them. And I think that's what they were saying in the article, wasn't it? Well, we were actually working on Tyranids and we were working on Harlequins, so they were the ones that we were playing against the leagues. And I can get
all the other product. What about all the other product lines you do? Do you not do any proper performative evaluative testing?
Well, I think what they're saying is, no, we don't. The only reason we played those codexes against Votan is because we were working on them. I think, do you agree that that's probably what happened?
Again, it's not like, oh, the new releases only play the new releases. You've got lads in this hobby that are just getting into it and have just bought Poster Boys. Or lads that have been in it years and have got one of every faction.
Yeah.
The game should be played against every codex at least a couple of times by different people, different lists, etc., that kind of thing, to see if anything is particularly unbalanced or broken. Second point, do not balance something or provide a points update for something before you have seen performative and evaluative results from in the field work.
Yeah.
Like me being an engineer, we do a lot of field testing. We do a lot of product development 6-12 months ahead of time so that we can get the results back from it and improve our product.
I think this was what Ash Barker was saying, wasn't it?
Do the same for yours. Release your product. Let every Tom, Dick, and Harry in the world who has different ideas to your game designer on what produces a balanced list, build a list. If everyone is bitching about it in 6 months' time that it's completely unplayable, you can't win a game, X, Y, and Z, or it's the most overpowered thing since sliced bread, fix it.
Yeah, definitely.
At that point. I think reaction. Oh, it must be broken because everybody on the internet is slagging it off because it's banned at tournaments.
This is exactly what Ash Barker said. The problem is you can't keep responding to noise like this because there'll always be a group of players or people that will whine like Billy Bitch when something changes or something new comes along, and they'll panic and shit themselves, and it'll work itself out. 9 times out of 10, it'll just work itself out. Leave it alone.
I'm gonna hold my hands up here.
Yep.
I bitched like fuck when marker lights got changed from 7th edition to 8th edition.
Yep.
For Tau, because it just made them completely unplayable.
Yep.
And the reason I bitched like fuck was because most of my... Oh, shit, I've just put too much red paint on my palette. Bollocks. The reason I bitched like fuck was because I had quite a few marker lights. Like, that was my list, and now they don't play anything like they did.
Yep.
I'm not particularly impressed or happy about that.
Yep.
What did I do? Stop playing rather than bitching. Because I've got millions of other games to go and play.
But to be fair, GW need to avoid that. That's GW's nightmare. And that is exactly why they did what they did, I think. They don't want people to do what you do, which is, I'm not going to complain about it, I'm just going to fuck off and leave.
Yeah, and I get that.
Because they want your dollar, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And they do want the hobby dollar. I'm going to just interact here and say, I'm going to turn my phone camera on and we can see the mess that I've just made on my wet palette. Because the people at home can have a laugh at me.
Well done, then.
I'm fucking talented. What can I say? Where is Chrome on my phone? There it is. Share my camera. Not my front facing, my back facing. Turn my audio off. Start.
Yeah. Correct, Hugh. Oh my Christ. Yeah, you've got some red there, mate. You plonker.
I'm going to go rescuing.
I'd just change the paper. You need to change the paper anyway. It's fucking crowded out.
I know it's going to change. I'm going to change the paper once I finish this sitting. But I'm going to go rescuing.
Yes, I mean, again, I am assuming, Hugh, that you agree a bit with Ash Barker. It's too soon. David's saying they've not played. Ash has played some games on stream, and yes, he beat. I watched one of them. He beat a Tau list, but he only just beat it. It was hardly. He didn't cream the guy. I mean, I think the guy had like one battle suit left, and Ash had a couple of characters left. They had a good old fisticuffs punch up, 750 or 800 points, whatever it was, but it wasn't a landslide.
No.
It's too soon. They shouldn't have done it yet. They should have done it in a bit. They should have let things... Again, if you're going to do balances, and if you're deciding that your game needs it, and to be fair, large war games probably do need balance. You need to be able to... When you invest 500, 600 quid in a load of models, when you invest 200 hours of time painting them, I think it's not unreasonable that you walk away and, assuming that you're at least honest with yourself about your own ability, you go, if I play somebody of similar ability, my chances of winning should be fair, should be good.
Fair to middling.
Yeah. And I don't think that is an unreasonable expectation for a wargamer to have, because of the amount of time and cash investment this hobby asks of us.
Requires.
Yeah. And because of that, games do need balance. Large scale war games need a degree of balance, unless, as we've already said, your game is intentionally not balanced and it says so on the tin.
Yeah, in big, large fucking lettering.
Yeah. I think is Tempest the sort of pseudo-random one, Hugh? Because Tempest is if it's equivalent to, what were they called in 8th and 7th, mate? Maelstrom. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Hugh, but Tempest is the card-based pseudo-random objective thing, where your objectives change dynamically as the game progresses. Because that adds another layer of random, it isn't really ever factored in terms of balancing the game. So none of the games that they put into the balance equation will use Tempest, because they're all competitive tournament, organised event games that they're counting. And they're deliberately, basically, it says in the article, all of the games that they have put into their system to calculate their win percentages are screened, and they're only counted if they're using the Nephilim rules, which is their current Grand Tournament pack. If you're playing anything else, they don't care, because I agree with you that Tempest, or Maelstrom as it was, is my favourite way to play 40k, because it's a little bit more storytelling, it's a little bit more random, it's a little bit more interesting, but it's not particularly rigorous for game balance. Do you know what I mean?
No.
If you flip shit cards, you can be playing the best game of your life, you're going to score nothing. Yeah, it is that version. I thought it was that. Yeah. Again, it's a great play mode, but it's not for everyone because it is so random.
We had some very good Maelstrom of War games in 7th and in 8th.
Yeah, definitely. The problem, as I say, the problem with it is, I can remember games where you flip a card where it's kill an enemy Psyker and your opponent's Necrons doesn't have any.
Or Tau.
Do you know what I mean? And back then, I don't know I'll be honest, haven't played with the new Tempest cards. I think from what I saw on Tabletop Tactics, they've taken a lot of those out. So there's very few scenarios where you flip a card and you've got no chance of scoring it. You can still flip cards where you really got to kill yourself to score it. Do you know what I mean? It'll be hard, but I don't think there are any that are impossible anymore.
Yeah, not like what was it? Big Game Hunter?
Yeah.
Bring down a monster or like the equivalent on the Tau.
Yeah, or bring down a flyer. Oh, I don't have any flyers. Oh, great. So, like, yeah. So I think they've changed that a little bit, but it's an interesting one.
I mean, again, I hope.
I think. Do you think we as gamers? Do you think it's actually getting worse? Are we getting more and more obsessed and more fixated on this balance thing? Are we part of the problem?
Yes and no. Yes, I think because of the nature of the internet now, and the fact that you can have an opinion and spout it off on the likes of Reddit and Twitter and whatever other bloody social media you want to use, it can go round the world very fucking quickly.
So you think it's a social media thing? So it's just the vocal minority that are banging this balance is critical thing. Do you think most of us don't care that much?
Look at it this way. If I bought Infinity 2 Club
Yep.
and told you to play with one arm behind your back and your eyes blindfolded,
yep,
you'd tell me to fuck off.
Yeah?
So my point is, balance is crucial and critical. You can't have it, like we've already touched on it tonight, internal balance, external balance. All of those things are critical to good game design. However, vocal people will be vocal. Whether you like it or not, somebody is going to be a gobby little shit, rightly or wrongly, and have an opinion that they will spout off on the internet. Whether it gains any traction or not depends on the fire that's already poured and how much accelerant is being put on it with said person's idea. For example, Votan. Everyone, like I've not heard anyone speak badly about the miniatures or the miniature design other than possibly Discourse not liking them. Rules-wise, they seem pretty powerful, but it's a new faction, and let's be honest here, GW aren't the most rigorous of playtesters, so it's going to be a while before they calm down. Because at the other end of that list, that was on that meta article, you had Adeptus Astartes, you had Space Marines.
Yeah.
With a less than 50% win rate.
39.
Now, some of that you can put down to, okay, maybe this is newer players bringing them to a tournament, therefore.
Yeah, that's what they said in the article. Because a lot of first players' armies is Space Marines, there's an inexperience factor there. Which might be right.
Counterpoint, the jack of all trades, master of none.
Again, I come back to why is your playtesting process the first thing that you should do with any new codex change or army change is play it against the most popular faction in your range?
Yeah.
If 60% of the sales you make are Space Marines, every codex
should be against Space Marines.
And by all means, test it against some other things, because again, there are, I think on the list that they published, there are 21 different factions. Death Watch is the only one that's missing.
Hugh makes a good point.
Yeah, I was going to come to Hugh's point when we finished rambling.
If you play for fun or to win.
Well, if you go back a comment, Hugh makes a fantastic point in the one above, which comes back to what we were saying the other week about whether games are better being a landslide victory or being close. Because what I was going to say to you there, Hugh, is not only does it make a game more interesting to watch, if it's tight and not a landslide, but it makes it way more interesting to play, I think.
Yeah, you feel like you're duking it out. I mean, again, you spoke about it earlier when you was talking about your Warhammer Fantasy Battles game, with the fact that it was balanced on a knife edge.
To be, the thing with Fantasy Battles, and I could totally see why some people criticise the game. Again, we have Infinity has got some particular foibles or some particular things that make Infinity unique. Warhammer Fantasy Battles is one of those games where deployment is pretty massive, and then getting the jump on your opponent is normally, unless you're very unlucky, what will win you the game. Because because there is a bit of an advantage to the aggressor, if you can pick your targets well, get the charges off and win the battles, you can roll up the opponent's army, and the game will end quite quickly after the first blows are struck. Do you know what I mean? But yes, the interesting thing about Fantasy Battles is the manoeuvring at the beginning, because it's all in position. You get yourself into position, then you strike. You might strike in turn 3, you might strike in turn 5, but normally when the strike is made, the end will come quick. It was a little bit of a disappointment that our game ended quickly, but because the Mexican standoff, which is the main part of the game, it came to because he was in my back lines. The thing with our game of fantasy, and I didn't really discuss it when I was discussing the game, was that my flamers had rolled up his right flank, so it'd be V's right flank, my left. My flamers had rolled his flank up and were coming in behind. I'd also got a unit in behind. He was under massive pressure. His Troglodon rolled up my right flank and was getting in behind. That's bad in fantasy, getting rear charged by dinosaurs. So I had no choice but to make the aggressive move, and the dice favoured me and I won. But that's why it ended the way it did, and that's part of the dynamic of the game.
Yes.
But generally, yes, I would say a game that comes down to a few points either way is always way more fun than winning 20-0, isn't it?
Yeah, well, again, look at our Infinity game, not last week. Yes, last week. That we spoke about on stream last week.
2-0, and it could have been 2-2 up for the last couple of orders.
But because it was so close the entire way through, it was like, oh my god, this is getting a bit ridiculous now. This is going down to the wire.
Yeah.
But it made for a really good game. It was balanced on a knife edge, because there were several points in that game where I thought, oh fuck, like Paul's won, and the counterpoint is you the same with me locking down those objectives. And again, it should have been it's a game that should have been a draw if it hadn't have been for my dodge, because you're in my zone of control, to run away from the building with a shotgun, and while you're moving into the chest to pick it up and secure it, oh fuck it, I'll just shoot you.
Yeah,
because it's the only thing I can do.
It's like I said, those last the run by my orc that stalled, the run by the doctor that stalled. At any point during turn 3, I could have drawn the game easily and possibly won it, but drawn it at least. But it just didn't work out that way. The dice did have a thing to say, and it just wasn't going to happen. And that's just the way it went.
This is a point worth making.
Yep.
Can you draw 40k?
Sorry? Can you draw 40k?
Yeah.
I'd be honest, mate, I have played so little 9th edition, I don't know how the scoring system works well enough.
It's damn hard to draw a game of AOS.
I honestly do not know. Given the fact that it's like scored points out of 100, I would have thought it's theoretically possible, but I do not know.
It's possible, but what I'm saying is it way more unlikely to draw a game that is scored out of 100 versus Infinity, which is out of a perfect 10?
I would say that it probably is less likely. Again, I'm spitballing because I don't know the scoring system of Ninth that well.
No, and again, this is the reason I just.
But does that? Are you saying that it matters?
I'm saying it may have something to do with how enjoyable a game is.
Interesting. I mean,
because again, we're saying that games that go down to the wire, that are finely balanced and on a razor edge, are enjoyable to play. We've literally just had this conversation.
Yeah, but there's a difference between. Oh, I see what you're saying. Because points are scored in such large amounts.
Yeah.
That actually maybe the whole core game system creates a scenario where it's easy for it to run away.
Yes. Because this again.
Do you know what, sir? That's a very good point. Again, no. That's another aspect of
DZC is another one that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah.
That has quite a tight scoring system on objectives.
Yeah.
And there tends to be this is the other thing, an odd amount of objectives on the table.
Yeah.
To promote somebody winning.
Yeah.
But if both of you get bogged down trying to get to that third objective.
Yeah.
And neither of you get it, the game ends in a draw.
Yeah.
And okay, yes, it then defaults to kill points to see who won better.
Like tiebreaker, yeah.
But it feels far better to walk away from a game that was 1-1, where you had your ass absolutely handed to you when you were table within an inch of your life, and have barely anything left. For example, if that Infinity game had gone to a draw, I'd have felt better about it than it being because I used what little resources I had to tie it out and stall it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Than if you had necessarily won the game. But again, this is links back to Hugh's comment of play to win versus play for fun.
I think that's definitely something that. This is what I was getting at earlier when I said about, do we think these issues around balance are getting worse in the sense that they're talked about more? Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, very good, Hugh. Looks like the old Grey Knights are getting some love. I love those purple weapons. That is such a good colour choice. Such a good colour choice. That banner's pretty fucking killing as well.
Yeah, I got another one come as well.
Oh wow.
It's a tough one. And again, we haven't even touched on narrative games like Frostgrave. Where balance is a thing within the game, and to make everything feel fair, has killing a knight as a knight has of killing a knight. For those that don't know, Frostgrave, basically a guy with a dagger that does F4 damage versus a heavily armoured guy that will cleave stuff clean in two.
Yeah.
Because of the system, because of the crit mechanic, those kinds of things.
Yeah, because the bonuses for fight values only vary by 1 or 2 points between highly skilled versus not skilled models, but you're rolling on a d20, and plus 2 or 3 on a d20 is not relevant, is it? It's like such a tight margin. It makes the game very random.
But the other thing is, because it's a narrative campaign, you pick yourself up after a shit game, dust yourself off, and live to fight another day.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's a good example of a game where I'm not saying that Joseph McCulloch has made no pretense at balance, because in fact, if you think about it, Joseph's took he took exactly the same route that a game like Bolt Action's taken. The balance in Frostgrave comes from the fact that everybody buys the same models.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what faction you are, who you are, your models are the same. And it's the same with Bolt Action. Largely inexperienced, regular veteran, doesn't matter whether they're Americans, Germans, Japanese, Italians.
They all
core stats are the same.
Yeah. They just have a little bit of flavour for...
Yeah. You have your army rule, but that's it.
Yeah, your army rules.
Other than that, everybody's the same. And it's a great balance point to start from. But like you say, even if you say, oh, well, yeah, but sigilists are crap and elementalists are amazing in Frostgrave, why would you ever play a sigilist? It's what you've said. Frostgrave isn't that sort of game.
No, it's a narrative game.
Number one, there is no incentive in any of the mission structures to actually attack and kill your opponent.
No.
Just collect treasure. Collecting treasure is all that matters. If you want to move around your opponent and ignore them, perfectly valid way to play.
It used to be a thing early in first edition that you got points for killing your opponent.
And they deliberately removed it for second edition to make the game less prickly and more story driven. It was a conscious design decision.
Yeah, nobody wandered into that naively going, fuck it, we'll remove that because it's not really a thing that people play with. It's, no, this is upsetting certain members of the community.
Well, not only that, I think as well, it was making the game something he didn't want it to be.
Yeah.
He didn't want it to be a spike game. He didn't want it to be, an alpha gamer's game. He wanted it to be a storyteller's game, a role player's game. A narrative experience.
Something that you pick up, play with your friends, and have fun doing.
Yeah.
Not arguing and dissecting the game 3 days later. Because that has happened with... Well, again, even we're guilty of it with mentioning our Infinity game from last week.
Well, look, it's time. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to show everybody at home what I've managed to get done.
I should probably get my camera ready so I can show everybody at home what I've got done.
I nearly got them based. Let's see what we've got here. I might actually swing this out. Let's reposition my camera. It's not in my light box, so it won't be very well lit, but at least I'll be able to show people what I've been doing. So... we've managed to get, let's transition, here we go, seasickness alert. Okay, so we managed to get most of the way there, to be fair. I just need to stick these guys on their bases, and maybe I can put a few accessories on their belt pouches. But these are my, I think it's Stormguard veterans. We have 2 guys armed with the Mjolnir missile launcher, all fixed up with backpacks, and 2 guys armed with what I believe is a magma cannon. There. See if I can show that better. There we go. Great big weapon with a cable and backpack on it. And my poor old unit leader, who hasn't even got his arms on yet, but I'll get round to doing him. So
he's harmless, don't worry.
Yeah. That's what I've been up to, mate. What about you?
Well, if we come down to my camera...
Uh-huh. There we go, sir.
we have dry brushed, and we've painted the roof in.
They're looking nice.
So then I've just got basically metallics to go and details like picking out the tusks.
They do paint up lovely. Does that thing that you had on that one in your hand rotate, or is it fixed?
No, it's fixed.
Oh, that's fine. That would be annoying if that kept spinning off.
No.
That's cool. I like it.
So that's 4 of these done.
Excellent job, sir.
Getting these ready for a game, because then I might, just might, on the off chance, where are they? Get my paint on these presents that you bought me.
We'll have to have a chat about colour palette. You'll have to tell everybody what your plans are.
Stone, brass, and red. It's dwarves.
Is that you're going to do lots of metallics and red?
Yes.
Okay, it's fair.
It's dwarves, mate. It's dwarves.
Yep. Should be awesome. Excellent job, buddy.
So
We'll have to get that. We'll have to get that armada to table. Should be cool. So
yeah, well, this is what I'm probably going to work on for the next week or two, and then we'll go from there. Because to be fair, these are painting really well. I'm gonna get the Basilian stuff. Just give it a reprime to take up the chip damage. Base coat it, and then dry brush it and wash it. Or dry brush it even. Because I'm going to go with a slightly different wood scheme.
Yep.
For the Basilian ones. Just so that there's another bit of disparity on the table for them.
Yeah, a bit of variation. You don't want everything coloured the same. That makes sense. So, thank you to Hugh for being in the chat. Thank you for everybody who joins us later on YouTube and coming along for the ride. Let us know in the comments below what you think about our main topic tonight in game balance in wargaming. It's such a touchy subject. Do we need it? And if we do need it, how's the best way to get it?
Yeah.
You know, change things every 5 minutes, or I regular schedule every 6 months. Plan it? I don't know. I think the TLDR version, mate, is that we don't have the answers, do we?
Yeah, I mean, again, I know we're wrapping up here, but again, games like Drop Zone from TT, there's 2 balance updates a year. It's every 6 months.
That to me seems a perfectly reasonable way to go. And it's what we said earlier. Could Games Workshop have put Votan out there, left it, and then in February, March, just put, here's the update, big changes. Do you know what I mean?
This go up, this decreases end of day. I can understand a little bit, possibly some points, modifications like the Custodes Codex that dropped and then got modified days after its release. I can understand a similar thing for Votan. But now they've done that, they don't need to touch it, and they shouldn't have to explain themselves.
No. That's the other thing. How transparent? I don't think, if you're going to have a game balancing system, being transparent about it, like they are being now, I think that's a great thing. Explain to people how you get where you get. Because if I was a super competitive player, I'd probably want to know. As it is, I don't really care much, but I certainly don't think bad of them for doing it. I do think that Games Workshop do have to take some criticism for letting... Let's set Leagues of Votan aside, because as we've said multiple times tonight, they haven't had an extensive play test in the wild.
No.
Their own data is showing that Tyranids are pretty fucking broken, and they're massively dominated.
Possibly underpowered.
People have been bitching and moaning about Harlequins since not long after they were released. The limited model range made one build absolutely brutal. They nerfed it, and they're still strong. I think they do have to take some criticism for getting. I know game balance is difficult, but to be so widely off the mark as many times as they have been in the last 12, 18 months is not acceptable for a company of their scale with their resources.
No, it shouldn't be.
You know, although they seem to be working to solve it, which is admirable, and obviously they're taking ownership of the problem with the whole apology thing, which was a bit tongue in cheek, but I think it came. I don't think it was a two fingers apology. I think it was genuine.
Yeah.
But come on, guys, look at your fucking playtesting system, and you know, surely you can see the. I mean, we're all seeing the flaws now of testing a small clique. I was watching a YouTube video and they described it as a pod system where they've got 2 or 3 armies that are effectively incestuously playing against each other. And I'm sure that pod is determined by what's in current development.
Yes.
And if it's not in current development, they're not spending time playing it. And I get it. It's time efficient. This is the book that needs to go out. Play as many games as you can with this army. I get it.
If everything is bookmark and benchmarked, as we've said multiple times this evening, against a universal standard, i.e. Space Marines...
Yeah. Well, let me just ask you a question, mate, as an engineer. If you needed to measure something, would you use a ruler, or would you just get the last pipe you've cut and just check the length against that?
It depends if the ruler was used on the pipe before it.
Well, you get my point, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
If every time you cut something, you measure it from the same ruler, they'll be the same length. And the same, to me it seems an absolute no fucking brainer. Oh, our most popular faction is this. Just nominate a guy in the office and say, you're the Space Marine player. Build as many Space Marine lists as you can, because that's all you're going to be playtesting. Everything new we're going to throw against you. And, it just seems a good place to start. And yes, with 25 factions, not every faction plays the same. Oh, well, if you play it against Space Marines, it might be easy to beat with Genestealer cults, or it might collapse to Tyranids, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm not saying just play Space Marines, but what I'm saying is, why is that not the default? And then maybe pick 2 others at random. I mean, again, these guys are experienced game designers. If you've got a Horde army, look at your product range. Yeah, what's a good anti-Horde army? Let's play it against that.
Like you say, play a Horde army, play a Psyker army, play a army with lots of high invens, etc., like demons.
Just choose 2 or 3, but if one of them is always the same army, and that's your initial reference point, because again, you put it on the table, fucking hell, it's wiping these Space Marines out. Back it off.
Yeah.
Back it off.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Then you can start tweaking. Anyway, we're rambling again.
With it, so
thank you very much for everybody for being here. It's been fun, and hopefully we'll see everybody next week for another live show. It's good night from me, and
night from me. So
see you later.
Catch you next week.